This is the GPL Podcast, part of the Pulltab Sports family.
Oh boy. Jupe making mistakes. I love it. And so I had to train for this marathon.
Make sure you stay awake for the game tomorrow, too.
Let's get this bandwagon going, folks.
Take
Come
that,
on.
me, Mr. Negative.
I think Bart must be watching upstairs. Rut-row.
Oh, is trying to be awake for Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Jupe's roommate's worried. Jupe's roommate's worried. Jupe's roommate. Now, here's Jupiter and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL Podcast. Let's go over to me instead of Vigs there real quick. Episode number 251. Celebrated 250 last week. Now let's bring him in, Vigs. Wrong button pressed. It happens. How's it going, Vigs?
It's going great. You know, I think we're getting into the heart of college hockey season right now, and then we have to slam on the brakes. But two more important weekends for the Gophers coming up.
Yep.
Really important, I think, for their season to keep, what's been going as a okay trend lately. They got to extend that and finish out strong here.
Connecting games, not just shifts, huh?
They got to connect some series together here to end the first half.
All right. Well, as all of you know this season, we jumped on the bandwagon of the Pulltab Sports family. And when you think of Pulltab, who do you think of, Vigs?
John King, hockey hair. And he has got some amazing lettuce flowing right now.
He does.
As he maybe will be joining us shortly.
He literally just
jumped
off right as I was about to click on him. We do what we do. He'll come back. He'll come back, we hope. He's the reason why we're here now. He's the reason why we got these lovely sponsors now. So it's a fun family now.
It's a fun family. It's good to be a part of it. You get some product, to get some structure in your flow. And I didn't boot him, Mote. So I think
we missed you last week, Mote. Okay, yeah. Now I see him there. He's got that look of disgust on his face. Let's see what happens when we bring him up. Dude, what did you do? Right before I click you to bring you on, and you disappeared.
I couldn't hear you for a minute. I had PTSD from 2 years ago.
Hi, man. How's it going?
I'm good, man. I'm excited to be back for my annual appearance on the GPL.
Well, as I was saying, after we kind of lost you there for a second, GPL Podcast is now part of the Pulltab Sports family. A flyover state of mind is kind of your top definition of Pulltab Sports, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, I think any place you can get a good Bloody Mary and rip some tab where we want to have fun.
Yeah, well, we're glad that you brought us on, part of your family. It's been very fun for us. Vigs, fun last weekend. I'm not so sure about that. Another split not another split. 3 points for each team. I guess they didn't technically lose, so that undefeated streak is still going with Michigan State. But that first game had to be a disappointment after having a lead.
Well, I think
multiple times.
I think it was disappointing for the fans because they wanted to see this program just come out and rip the barn doors off of Michigan State and take control of the Big Ten again. And what actually happened is Michigan State's made the right additions in the portal. They've added some very tough players to their group, and Adam Nightingale has recruited some more talented players. So this is probably the deepest Sparty team Minnesota has faced in probably a decade. And I thought Minnesota rose to the challenge on Friday and controlled the game and actually scored 3 pretty goals, Gopher hockey goals, nice plays, but Michigan State got some bounces and one nice one. And really that's all it took. And then, the shootout stuff that everybody is complaining about, doesn't mean much for the pairwise. It's just for the Big Ten standings.
Yeah, but I was pretty disappointed. I didn't catch all the game. I was out and about in Duluth last weekend. But every time they got a goal lead, it's almost like the next shift or two, there's a letdown. And yeah, they may have played well, but they didn't play well after goals last weekend.
It's just that attention to detail that I think is still
Mhm.
happening when you have a young team like this. If you look back a couple of years when Brock Faber and Jackson Lacombe were freshmen, they would go through moments like this.
They did.
And Bob's going to keep throwing those guys out on the ice, and you're going to have to deal with that kind of learning curve. You can't throw out Jackson Nelson for every key D zone draw. You've got to get
Yeah.
Oliver Moore, Jimmy Clark, that experience taking those draws. And I think Jimmy Clark is coming along a lot quicker than everybody anticipated, and he just continues to be one of the most consistent players for Minnesota.
So what are your thoughts so far this season, Kanger? I mean, they lost one time in November. A lot of ties, so it's maybe not as bad as people think. What are your thoughts?
I'm still trying to figure out what they are, right? We don't have a ton of the top scorers in the country, and I feel like college hockey's kind of become like college basketball, where there's all these superstars, these kind of diaper dandy with Celebrini and Boston College is loaded that way. So I guess my question for you is, if we're kind of cooking these guys in the crock pot, who are the superstars on this roster that are going to start to emerge, or do we need them? Is it better to have a team, not a star team?
Well, that's a good question because, everyone thought Snuggerud was going to be the superstar this year so far, Viggs. And yes, he's been up and down. I'd say Brody Lamb jumping up has been really big. Clark, like you mentioned, has been really big as well. What do you think?
I mean, when you look at Jimmy Stuggerud, and he's got 8 goals in 14 games so far, it feels like a letdown. You were almost expecting him to be like a 30, 40 goal scorer, and he could still get to 30, I think, this year. If he starts to find some space on the power play and he starts to figure out how to generate offensive zone, he could be a 30 goal scorer this year. I'm not saying it's not out of the equation, but I don't think he's as dominating a player as people maybe were hoping for. Coming into the year, a lot of people are like, what's he going to look like without Logan Cooley and Matthew Nyes? And what we're seeing is he can't really take over a game by himself. And when he tries to, he kind of gets himself into trouble. And his shifts are kind of one and done type shifts because he can't win back all the pucks that Cooley and Nyes could win back. And he doesn't have line mates yet who are doing that for him. So it's going to be a more difficult season for him than I think a lot of people expected.
Who has stood out for you, Kanger?
Well, I think Clark's awesome. He looks like a player that's every coach's dream. He's just in the right spot. He's consistent. He's been great. Lamb popping in there and scoring. I kind of like that. We could end up with a team that has, 8 different people scoring a lot of points. I mean, that could be the recipe. You saw Michigan 2 years ago get bounced. We didn't get it all the way there last year. So I don't know if the dream team is the right model anyway.
I mean, they've got 8 guys that are almost at double-digit points already through 14 games. That's a bunch of guys who are all about that 0.75 points per game that you're looking for in your lineup. And that was one of the things at the start of the year I said, this is going to be a team that probably is going to have 9 guys score 10-plus goals. And I still think for them to be successful, that's what's going to have to happen. They just have to tighten things up a little bit more defensively. If you looked at some of the games they've given away, I feel like it's because they are just forcing the play and they're giving offense to their opponent. And you just can't do that in college hockey. You got to make the other team work for offense. You can't just hand it over.
I think Close has been awesome as well. I mean, it's rare that you can watch a game and enjoy watching the goaltender. He just makes me feel better. He's really good. He's really confident, and I think he's he's been an absolute stud for us.
He's comforting like the Golden Bachelor, right? You just feel very comforted when you see him. And when the puck goes off his pads, you're not nervous. You're like, he knows what he's doing. He's been here 5 years.
And no hearing aids, which is nice.
Oh, jeez.
Is that bullying? That was probably bad.
I haven't seen the show. I just can't do it. I do want to mention one thing. Vigs now 2-13 in the shootout. Lost another point Friday night after giving up the lead late. It's not just that they're not winning; they're not even scoring. Have they scored a goal yet in the two or three shootouts they've had?
Well, I mean, they missed the net twice on Friday in the shootout, and that's not usually a good sign. It's frustrating. I don't put too much stock in it. That's not how the NCAA weighs things. It's just for the conference. The Gophers won the league by 19 points last year. Obviously, that's not going to happen again this year. It's going to be a tight race. But the focus is on developing players, not working on shootout moves and scouting the other team's goalie. I know it's frustrating for fans to see. And I think it's frustrating for the players to lose the shootout. It's such an emotional letdown because you see, when a team win the shootout, they clear the bench. Like, yeah, it's a win. Well, kind of. It's kind of a win. And the losing team, the same thing. They're just like their heads are down. As Bob would like to say, their daubers down. And they go to the locker room and they feel like they lost. Well, for 65 minutes, they played pretty good hockey.
They did. But yeah, like it is a fan thing. It's frustrating, but it's not, like I said, it's not just that they're losing, it's that they're not even scoring. They're not even giving good attempts. It's almost like, they're kind of leaving, close hanging out to dry there, Vigs.
Yeah, I mean, he looks good in the practice when they do it, and Cal Thomas has been good in the practice when they do it. They do it every week. They do a shootout competition, so it's not like it's totally foreign to them. It's not like they're totally dumping it off. So
Kinger Vigs mentioned, they win the league by 19 points last year. Get that by. I think it hurts them. Do you think they should even have a goal of winning the league, the regular season, or should the goal be like 2 or 3? We know the coach doesn't like all that dang time off.
There's only one goal, and it's St. Paul.
Okay.
And if not having a week off helps with that, then I'm all for it. I just want there's unfinished business. I mean, we've been so close, we can taste it these last couple of years, and coming back to excel. So I don't care if we have a week off or not. Just get into the postseason and have the team playing their best hockey at that time of year.
I guess, Vigs, it kind of depends a little bit on how healthy they are. If they got a couple injuries here and there, maybe at the end of the season, having an extra week off is not a bad thing. But if they're healthy, Bob would want to keep playing.
Yeah, Bob has wanted to have the Big Ten change how they do the tournament for years, and he's talked about it, and they've never really been able to get traction and get it done. Maybe it's because the other teams don't think they can win the league, and so they want the Gophers to have that bye week going in the playoffs. But I think the goal is to have the best team possible at the end of the year, and that's obviously what Bob is doing. That's why he's playing guys the way he's playing them. You looked at the OT on Sunday. I think 5 different defensemen got shifts in the overtime. It's not like he's just pumping Chesley and Thomas and Kester back out there. He threw Renzel out there. He threw out Middlestat. They just put all 5 guys out there. For the forwards, he throws out Nelson and Huglin and Snugger, or couldn't throw out Snuggerud on Sunday because he got kicked out for one of the worst major DQ calls I've seen in college hockey.
It was an even up call. That's totally what it was.
It was totally an even up call, but it was a terrible call. But he's getting guys that experience, and the OT goal was a nice play by all 3 guys out there to recognize that a Michigan State player broke his stick slashing Huglin earlier. He didn't notice he had a broken stick, and then when he went to play it, it broke.
He leaned on it, and it was gone.
And it was gone, and all of a sudden, all the players like, okay, let's do tic-tac-toe, and they did it from Renzel or Brodzinski to Renzel to Clark on the back door. It's a great play, and it's a great mature play for those guys to get under their belt.
A super senior to a freshman to a freshman. And like you said, he's putting those guys, put Clark and Renzel out there in overtime. Yes, they put him with an experienced guy, but I wouldn't say Brodzinski's a guy that, gets up and down the ice easily at 3-on-3. So maybe you're
But
right.
he's leading the team in scoring with 16 points in 14 games. I mean,
he is.
People give Brodzinski a hard time. He looks faster to me this year. He's
does.
Put in the work. The coaching staff noticed his body fat's down, his speed's up, and he's got the space now to make plays. I think if you look at his history, a lot of times he gets caught by a back checker or he doesn't scan the ice very well. This is a player who's played here 5 years now. He's got a sense of when he has time to shoot or when he has time to make a play, and he's executing so far. And so for him and Jackson to be leading this team in scoring, I think is significant. We've always been one of the youngest teams in college hockey. Now they got 2 fifth-year guys, and look what they're doing out there.
And Kinger, I like that Nelson and Brodzinski are playing great. It's just, previously those other 4 years, they both disappeared for 5 or 6 games at a time. So if they can be this consistent all year, this is definitely a good thing for this team.
Yeah, and I agree. Brodzinski, he's like the type of player Minnesota hockey fans just love to be frustrated by, right? And actually Nelson's kind of the same way because he's so big that people don't understand how well he's doing everything. So I think that's more our problem than those guys, and I don't expect them to disappear. And I think it's like even Vanek, people used to rag on constantly just because body language and how he looked at something. But they're performing and they're leaders and they're older, and if that allows these young guys to have time to cook, let's go.
Definitely. Well, we need to talk about some of our sponsors here, and I'm going to play this Chill Boys ad, Kinger, and then afterwards, I want you to tell us about it.
Hi, I'm Kevin. As a decorated member of the ball crew, it's my job to make sure every ball is in good hands. With Chill Boys anti-friction glide zone, the boys stay cool and dry, which is why I recommend Chill Boys life-changing bamboo boxers and boxer briefs. With Chill Boys, the score is always love, love. Chill Boys, comfort where it counts.
Okay, I just got to say that you guys must have had a lot of fun putting that together. He's your intern, wasn't he, this past summer? That's Frank? Frank, your intern?
That's Kevin Silverman. He's TikTok famous. He's the TikTok teacher. But I think the best part about that was we shot it at a Lifetime. And the head person at Lifetime just came over. It's like, what are you guys, what are you doing? And I wasn't going to be like, well, we're filming an underwear commercial in the corner here. But I think she eventually saw it when it was out there. But Chill Boys are great. Minnesota company. People don't know that a lot of times. They even got a new purple bamboo boxer brief that they call the Viking.
Really?
Yeah,
that's good.
It's that like Tommy Kramer purple, like the old stuff. It's good. I'm a fan.
Yeah, and of course, because of Pulltab, if you go get yourself some Chill Boys, use the promo code Pulltab15 to get 15% off your order. So that's definitely a good thing. I'm going to request. I'm going to a wedding in January. If they could get some white ones, that'd be great because I'm wearing white pants, and I don't think I could wear my bright green or black ones.
I think we're at the age where we don't wear white underwear anymore at our age, do we? I don't.
I know. I've got my black ones on right now. They're very comfy, but I'm just saying.
I think if you're wearing white pants, you really need to go with the Regal purple and make a statement and just let everybody know. It's just like rock it confidently. Just be like, yeah, I know you're looking.
That's not
bamboo.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
I'm going to be cool and comfortable with these things. You can rest your eyes.
Because, I'll be in the Dominican Republic, so I definitely need the Chill Boys because it's going to be hot. It's going to be uncomfortable. So
I'll check on them for you.
Well, tell us about Unreal then. I mean, Unreal is, we've been talking about them up a lot.
I think for me, I just went I just went to their 10th anniversary down in Mankato. They sponsor this studio rink down there. It's unbelievable if you haven't been. You're going to see great, strong programs coming out of Mankato in about 10 years because every 8 to 12-year-olds probably having their birthday at this rink down in Mankato. But I just love it. It's homemade. I met Michael Jordan, the CEO, because I spoke to his high school class at some point about God knows what. And now he's basically the Minnesota Phil Knight, making sweet hoodies and golf clothes. And they're working on a new line right now. And I just love their stuff. They did a wild drop finally. So some of you probably got the new, the black on black wild drop, but Minnesota company, and just great products, really creative. He invents products like this crossover hoodie. He made it up and now everybody knocks it off, but he actually made it up.
You know, I saw their Black Friday thing with Shooter McGavin. I saw Marnie Gellner on that video, and I saw some other people that people might know. It was a good bit that they put out last week, and it makes it exciting to have that kind of brand around here.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, as Baltimore has Under Armour, Oregon's got Nike, Minnesota's proud to have Unreal.
And of course, if you go to unreal.co, that's .co, not .com, and use the promo code Pulltab15 to get 15% off your order. So make sure you guys do that. That would be stupendous.
I love companies there in the state of Minnesota, and I love companies that give back. And Unreal is one of those companies that does that, as John could say by visiting that studio rink. I hear some good stuff's coming out of Mankato youth hockey. They've got a lot of good people there putting in the time.
It's sweet, man. And it's a mini rink too, so it's like perfect.
So where did they put that?
I don't know where I was because I don't know Mankato very well, but it's fun about it. If you've been to this rink, so Michael, everything's got to be kind of perfect. It's like an Instagram rink. It's like it's clean. Everything's black with their logo. It smells good. I mean, it's insane. It's the most unreal rink ever.
You know what I would like, Viggs, if Unreal would take over the contract at University of Minnesota from Nike, because then we could actually get some decent stuff for hockey.
Yeah, it's a little while for that Fanatics deal. They still got, I think, 5 or 6 years. I was talking to some people at Dinkytown Athletes about that a couple weeks ago, and Fanatics is locked up stuff for a while. But, you know, you can see collaborations like they did the Row the Boat stuff, and we'll see stuff down the road.
Andrew Carlson, it's up by the River Hills Mall. God, that mall is still there. Wow. There you go, folks. Nice going. So, Viggs, you talked about last week how these next set of series are really important. 3 points this past weekend. We got Penn State. We got Ohio State win. We got that long break. We don't need to get into specifically the series, but what would you like to see in these next 2 weeks before the long break?
I'd like to see Minnesota stay healthy. We saw the impact of losing Mike Kester for a couple of weeks, the impact of losing Mason Nevers, the impact of having goalies that had to have their workload monitored. So it's really important for them to stay healthy, even with the break coming up. And the other thing is, don't give away points. I don't feel like Minnesota has really been outplayed in any game this year. Even the Notre Dame game where they were beaten pretty handily, I thought Minnesota controlled a lot of play there. It's just that they make these young mistakes where they force plays. Stop doing that. You know, if you're a defender playing a one-on-one rush down the dots, don't go outside the dots just because you think you can make a play. That's got to be 100% sure decision before you leave that and give away the middle. And too many times you see Minnesota doing that. Against Michigan State, we saw, I think, Renzel and Middlestat both go play a 2-on-3 rush and give away the middle of the ice. You can't make mistakes like that. So I'd like to see Minnesota be able to do that. Back checkers come back. pick up guys all the way to the net. Because I think the offense is going to be there for Minnesota. Their power play started off at like 10%. It's now up to about 23, 24. It's coming around. They had 3 power play goals on Sunday. That's going to be there. The offense looks like it's there. They just got to stop giving away points and goals.
What's been your frustration so far, Kinger? Did you think this team would be better, or are you okay with everything?
I think my frustration is I don't know how good we are. And when you're a fan, I remember, like, even with bands, I would listen to the new album from my favorite band, and I would always think it was good. And then it would take, a year later, I'd look back and go, yeah, that one wasn't good. And I'm still learning what we are. It feels like, remember when North Dakota would always slow cook, and then they would get really strong at the end of the year and go on a run? I guess that's what I'm hoping is happening here. He's getting depth. He's got a bunch of guys that can score. He's got a good goalie. And so even this next 2 series, let's get like 6 points. Let's get, win a game and get 1 point in the next game in both series, and just keep going forward and keep building. That's what it feels like. It feels like we're building, which is it's different than the last couple of years. But maybe this will work. I don't really care. I just want a national championship. The fact that we have as many as we have, and we're as famous a program as we are, I want more stars on the back of the jerseys. That's all I care about.
Or stars, period. Let's get some stars in those jerseys if they win another one, Biggs.
It's a cool look when they do it. I do think Minnesota is building for the end of the year, but I think people need to recognize college hockey is pretty balanced this year in the top 15, probably. There isn't a huge separation between 1 and 15. That's why you see the number 1 ranked team in the USCHA poll almost always lose a game the next weekend.
Yeah.
The one thing I think Minnesota has going for it is they've got young players, but they've got experienced players. And that's something they haven't had before. I think it's just figuring out how these guys can fill their roles and be okay with that. You don't have to win every shift. Bob and I have been talking about this the last couple of weeks. This team, if they go out and have a shift and they don't get a goal, they come back and their heads are down. Sometimes that's okay. You don't need to score points every shift. You don't need to have a grade A scoring chance every shift. You have to win your shift or tie your shift. The key is don't lose them and figure out how to connect them from shift to shift to get some momentum. And if the Gophers can figure that out by the end of the year, they're going to be right there. And I think they're going to be a deeper team than any Gopher team we've seen make one of these runs because of the balance they roll out the lines and the defense.
Viggs, I did notice it a little bit again this weekend. They did get stuck in their own end for quite a long time. A few times. It wasn't as bad as the previous weekend, but I think they did better. But, man, you're just setting yourself up for those mistakes when you cannot get the puck out. And again, like we've seen, we've had chances to get that puck out. It's just relieve the pressure, and they just can't always quite get that extra play to do it.
I think it's because you have to pick that right spot to make your play. And when you had guys like Faber, Lacombe, and Johnson out there, they were very aggressive at identifying when they could win a battle and clear the zone. This year's team, I don't think they quite have that figured out yet. The one guy I feel really confident with on the defense, Cal Thomas. I don't know if I've seen him make a mistake this year. Like, he just makes the right play almost every time, and he's not one of the guys that gets caught out there. It's usually like Renzel, it's Chesley, it's Kester, it's Fish, it's one of those guys, they can't quite make the right play, and then their forwards don't support them in the right way, and so they get caught.
Kanger, a lot of people have been ripping on Fish. I think he's +6 right now, or +8. I think people just want to find somebody to pick on.
You can't pick on anybody from the east side, and his work, and because you'll get your ass kicked, by the way. But also his NCAA Frozen 4 interview videos. I mean, I don't care what he does on the ice. This guy is a legend. He was so funny, and I don't know if Bob was just like, Fish, you do it. And he was just, that's a great tradition. If you've been to the Frozen Four, they just do almost like skits between
Yes.
teams. It's really great. It's better for some reason than when the teams try to do them themselves. But yeah, I just love he's from Johnson, East Sider. That's like Ponyboy Curtis, man. Like lay off Fish.
No,
Stay golden, Pony Boy. Stay golden.
I agree. I think he's getting better. He's getting more comfortable at the more minutes he's playing. I feel like, last year when he got in there, he had to make an impact in his mind. I think this year he's realizing, hey, I'm really big and long. I can just let people come to me and then I can break up the play. I don't need to go chase it. And for some guys at that size, they have a hard time learning that, lesson. He's picking it up. And the more he plays, the better he's going to be. And I think he's someone they're going to be able to rely on down the stretch because he brings a physical skill set that not everybody quite has on this group.
But I did notice one thing that people were like, why was Rude out there or whoever, and he got burned on a goal? It's still early, Viggs, and we know Bob wants to get people in there. You only get experience when you're out there playing and when you fail or mess up at times.
Yeah, Bob has often said, he's like, I'm going to give these guys a lot of rope until Christmas. And then when we come back from break, once we get back into conference play, that's when we start to, enforce the rules a little bit more. If you don't play by the book with us after January 10th, you're not going to see as much ice time. But until then, he wants to get, that book of business to evaluate from guys. It's like, let's get some film. Let's teach you how you're doing things in game with game video, because you can practice it all you want, but it's such a different experience when you're out there in front of the 10,000 fans at Mariucci and you're trying to make a play.
So I wanted to switch topics just a little bit here. Kinger, you had Minnesota's now new favorite son, Brock Faber, on your podcast a couple weeks ago. I think the audio was out quicker. The video came out later. Tell us about that. How was he? I mean, gosh, he seems likable.
Everyone in the state, if they're playing Mary F. Kill, right? Everybody's getting married to Brock Faber on the Minnesota, including I think my wife watches him pet dogs on Instagram all day for like 40 minutes a day. He's an awesome kid. I wanted to ask you guys, how shocking is it to watch how he's playing in the NHL from a style standpoint? Because he was a stud in college, but it's a different player. He didn't run around like that in college almost ever. Not that I remember. He was more like a Brady Shea, just a stud, reliable defenseman. And now he's engaging, he's activating, he's going to the net. But I guess the best way to say it is he's the guy you'd want to pick up your daughter. I mean, that's what it seems like anyway. Who knows?
Well, I kind of like the explanation that he gave himself. He knows he's got guys back there that are going to cover for him when he does that. College, a lot of guys aren't thinking like that. I mean, when they do, I think more teams are more successful. But, I think he was more concerned about that in college, Viggs. Oh, geez, if I do this, I'm leaving some guy back there by himself. And I don't know if a forward's going to cover for him.
He's like, I got to trust Sammy Walker to cover me if I come down for the blue line. Are you kidding me?
He doesn't even use butter on his bread. He had that great line too. He goes, when I was in college, I would get so mad when I got scored on because some college kid scored on me, even though he was in college. But yeah, in the NHL, he trusts everyone and he's just playing free. But he's a lot of fun. Does a lot with the Hendrickson Foundation with his sister, and had his mom in a commercial. So any NHLer, when you pitch that his mother is going to be in a commercial, and he's like, okay. He's a pretty laid back dude.
I think it's fair though, because he did do a commercial for his mother at the at the mortgage place that she's been running for a while. So I think it's fair game, Beeks.
It's a trade back.
I think
They're
it
even
is.
now. They're even now.
Yeah.
No, I think it's
I
interesting with Brock because he's so mature. I think all the NHL writers are surprised as well. You know, his coach gets fired. Who gets interviewed? Brock Faber.
The new
Brock
kid?
Faber's coming out. The Wild lose a game. Who's talking to the media about falling on the sword? It's Brock Faber. You know, this guy is just letter C material.
I was going to say captain material.
He's going to be wearing letters for a long time in his career. And, you got the sense of that when he was at Minnesota, that he was that kind of mature guy. And I think Minnesota was missing that at the start of this year. You know, they lost some pretty big alpha players with Faber and Nyes leaving. You know, those guys, ran the ship. And when guys like that leave, it's a bit of a vacuum to try to recover from. Mason Nevers talked about that today. He's just like, it's taken us a while to figure out our identity, our mentality, and we're starting to figure it out now. But no surprise how well Brock Faber's playing in the NHL to me.
All right, before we get into this weekend stuff, Viggs, Duke Cannon. Well, you guys both have got the good flow going today, but Duke Cannon jumped on board as one of our sponsors this year. I wore the product all weekend in Duluth, and I know Barb loved it. My hair smelled great. I smelled great. Of course, I look great too, but that's besides the point. But tell us more about Duke Cannon, Viggs.
Yeah, being part of Pulltab Sports, our hair's got to be elite. And, that Serious Flow styling putty does some work. Get that Mr. Miyagi going, warm it up, put it in the wet hair, put some structure in there. It's going to help your game. I think everyone will be impressed with it, and you'll feel confident. And if you need some volume, get that News Anchor thick hair, pump it up a little bit, and look for it at dukecannon.com, Target, hardware store. If you're looking for a gift for someone who's been a little naughty, look for that big ass brick of coal that they have out there. It's a good little stocking stuffer for people, or even just to bring to a party. You can bring your bottle of wine or beer and then give them a big ass brick of soap. Why not? So,
King, are you rocking the Duke Cannon flow, or does your hair need that kind of product?
You can reach a point where you don't use a lot of product because you've been doing the same thing with your hair for like 30 years. But I'm big into their deodorant, the Midnight Swim. That's a thing. And we did just do some stuff with Jake Middleton that's pretty funny. It'll come out real soon here that I think you'll get a kick out of. But I love Duke Cannon, another Minnesota company. And they got a beer that smells like Busch Light, so you'll have to check that out.
I believe they also have some Buffalo Trace scented soaps as well, which could be foreshadowing for overtime tonight.
Yes, it is. Why isn't the break show just overtime? You should do it backwards. Like we put this at the end and then overtime.
Because we need to be sober for the main part of the show.
Okay.
By the end last week, I was pretty lit up.
All right.
So, all right. The next one. Okay. I love this new commercial you just did for Ferda. I'm going to play it here. This is some great stuff, John.
Are you tired of the same old fundraisers? Paying $15 for a stale bag of popcorn, chocolate candy bars melting in your car, and more frozen pizzas than you have freezer space? Introducing Ferda Fundraisers, a fundraising company with as much personality as the people who play the game.
Lift big, throw gas, big dingers.
Big dump for the boys.
Choose from great products made by local companies, flexible plans built around your needs. Sell how you want and be supported from start to finish. Deliver max return without charging people a fortune. It's never been easier to support your community. Ignite your fundraising with Ferda Fundraisers. Ferda Boys, Ferda Girls, Ferda Community, Ferda Fundraisers.
And Viggs, we've talked about this a lot. This is so right up the alley for hockey dads and hockey moms and hockey programs.
Yeah, connect with Wayne over at Ferta Fundraisers. He's a super nice guy. He'll make everything as easy as possible for you, from building websites, setting up store cells, and the products are great. I love Minnesota products, and they get a bunch of them, from the Von Hansen stuff to the Joe Mama's salsa to the Croy Valley rubs and stuff. It's just great stuff. I'm excited about this freeze-dried candy that they have out now that the kids love. So can't wait to get my hands on some.
A little part of this is that I'm hopeful we can get to an overtime as a story we half witnessed. This is kind of a teaser, Kanger. Will you tell us the Joe Mama story in overtime that happened on a certain day back in August?
Oh my God, I don't even know what you're.
It's a teaser.
Sure.
It has something to do with a Jeep and driving people around.
This is a pull tabs story in general. This is a great overtime story. So I hope our
we'll have to
for it.
Will you share that with us during overtime?
I will.
That would be excellent, because it's a great story. Vigs heading to Penn State used to be a house of horrors for Minnesota. Recently, they have really picked it up and played well there, but still expect 40 shots to 50 shots against.
Yeah, so apparently playing Michigan State was a good warm-up for Close in the defense, because the Gophers gave up plenty of shots to Sparty this last 2 games. So heading to Penn State, expecting more of the same. The one thing Bob said today at availability is this is not the same Penn State team of being ultra-aggressive all the time. This year, Penn State's doing some of that 1-1-3 neutral zone trap stuff that Quinnipiac succeeded with last year, and I think it's something that Guy Gadowski is trying to implement with his team so that they can be a little bit more steady as a program. They've been such a high volume, high pressure team that I think they give away too many opportunities because of that when they play better teams. So this is a way for them to change gears a little bit. So that'll be a new thing for Minnesota to experience when playing Penn State, but it'll be quite the test for Minnesota's D-core. I think that was always the problem when they played Penn State. There are so many pucks below their goal line that the U of M D-core always struggled. When you've got all the NHLers that the Gophers recently had with Faber, Johnson, Lacombe, that wasn't a problem anymore. This year could be a big test. A lot of new players back there that'll be under a lot of pressure.
One thing I would say as a fan, Kinger, is with what happens in these games against Michigan and Penn State, a lot of scoring. They seem to be a lot of back and forth, fun type games.
Well, I always like this. I think it's kind of cool that Penn State has this identity. Like, if you can see the goalie shoot, and I wonder how is our D? Is that going to end up being, if you kind of play out this strategy of growing towards the playoffs, is our D is it gonna be there? Because Close is there. Seems like the forwards are coming. Are we gonna be okay on D? Like, what you just said scared the hell out of me for this weekend. And which is, we don't use the Q word. We don't use it.
I know, I'm just putting a lot of trauma in everyone's mind who's watching and listening, but I think it's a real test this weekend for where they're at. I felt like they answered the fight against Notre Dame in the second game, and they played the way that you have to play when you play Notre Dame. Against Penn State, are they going to go through that same growing pain where they turn over some bad pucks and give away offense, or are they going to come ready to play? I know during practice, you're trying to simulate that kind of pressure and that decision making, but it's going to be a lot harder when someone's trying to tattoo you on the end boards, because I think the hardest play in hockey is a puck retrieval in your own end with hard pressure, and that's something that Penn State does a lot. So it's going to be a real test for Minnesota. I know that they have the physical attributes to take care of it. Renzel's big and long. He should be able to get there, protect himself, and make a play. Carl Fish, big and long, should be able to get there, protect himself, make a play. Kester, not the biggest guy, but has shown he can take heavy hits and still make plays. He's got the hockey IQ to handle that. I think it's going to be a real test to see how they all respond.
They almost play playoff hockey all the time. It's like that, just pace guys on the glass. So what your preamble. Now I'm really interested in watching this weekend because I think it's kind of a foreshadow maybe towards the spring. So I hope our blue liners are ready to go.
That would be good. That would be good. So Friday night, folks, BTN Plus only stream. So either watch that or listen to Wally and Frank on the radio. 6 p.m. starts. Saturday, it's a 5 p.m. start on Big Ten Network. And our guest next week, Paul Capnegri, is going to be on that call for that game. So that's the TV this weekend. I keep telling people, get used to more streaming like this, folks, because it's the future. I personally like it, Vigs, because I have BTN Plus and it's not a big deal. So I'm enjoying all this.
Certainly an adjustment for everybody. I do like the BTN Plus, the condensed game options that you can go to and rewatch. Like I watched Penn State play Lindenwood in about 40 minutes, and I saw all the goals that they scored. You know, Penn State's the 5th highest scoring team in the country right now. They probably padded their stats with their series against Lindenwood, but they like to go on offense, and who doesn't?
Yeah, but Kinger, they're playing Lindenwood. I mean, the speed limit and the quality is going way up for them next weekend. I would like to see Minnesota put up a pretty good fight and take care of them.
Yeah, maybe we'll get Snuggie really going here. You know, I'm curious who our superstars are, right? Because sometimes you don't see them, and when you look back at the roster, you realize how good you were because they're so young. But maybe Jimmy will just light it up, and maybe both Jimmys get to do some damage this weekend. That'd be nice.
That would be nice. But really, I don't have a problem with the other Jimmy 2, showing up because, like you said, more balance, the better off we are.
Well, I think the team is trying to keep that balance. You know, you could very easily start putting Snuggerud with the guys who are playing best and really help them. But I think they're trying to get these guys to fight through these struggles and grow from it. They're not just trying to put a life preserver on them and say, hey, well, don't worry, we'll take care of you. It's like, oh, it's good to struggle a little bit, you know, and figure out a way to get out of it. You know, you look at the Wild right now, Matt Boldy, Kirill, you know, they're going through probably the worst experience of their career right now. You know, not scoring goals, not winning games, having their coach fired. It's hard. And they're doing it at the NHL when the media are asking them after every game, what's going on? Why can't you score? It's good for these players to go through this once or twice and figure out how to change their game and improve and get to that next level.
Yeah, because, I mean, if Jimmy Snuggerud figures it out, Vigs, and we have all that other scoring balance throughout the lineup, it would be really tough to stop him if everyone else is contributing as much as they are.
Yeah, because he gets a lot of attention. He's getting the team's best checking players. You know, he's seen the best defenders. They're trying to take away time and space from him. I think one thing he needs to figure out is how can I win more pucks and be a distributor? And then once people back off, now my shot's back. It seems like every time he gets the puck right now, he wants to shoot it as quick as he can. You know, he's not looking to make that second play yet. He's looking to just, I got to get my offense. You know, I got to get my shot off. That's what I'm good at. He's got to figure out a few more tricks to add to the bag right now.
Vise, I did want to comment. You know, we were trying to get Oliver Moore, hopefully, to pick up his game a little bit, but he did really perform very well on faceoffs the past weekend. One of those areas that he had been struggling a little bit on, but he actually helped the team out quite a bit.
Well, it's funny. It's almost like he's been listening to the GPL podcast because I asked him the other day, like, how do you evaluate yourself other than points? He's like, well, I got to be a better battle player. I got to win more pucks. I got to win faceoffs, and I got to connect shifts. I was just like, thanks for listening. I appreciate that. And of course he does it against Michigan State, and that's growth, and that's what you want to see out of these players.
Yes.
You know, that speed will always be there for him. You know, continue to work on it. Yes, be one of the fastest players, but figure out other ways to contribute to the game because you can't just always win with speed.
And I think going back to your superstar thing, Kinger, if all these other guys are kind of contributing right now and, you know, maybe Snuggerud and Oliver Moore are kind of figuring out improving other areas of their game, they're going to all of a sudden figure out, and all of a sudden you are going to have the superstar Jimmy and Oliver lighting it up. And we've already got Pitlick starting to light it up now too. So maybe Pitlick could be on your list as well.
Yeah, I love watching him play. He flashes. You see him. He's fun to watch. I think Vigo was saying this team is a grower, not a shower. Is that kind of is that to put words?
There you go. Yeah, definitely a grower team. Rhett's growing a lot this year. I noticed on Friday he probably had about 5 or 6 of those turnovers south. Sunday he had like 1. And I thought he was a much more consistent, mature player. And he's on the precipice of just going off. I mean, that first power play unit is starting to look dangerous. I know it took him a while to get going on one of those 5-minute majors, but Bryce took advantage of a situation and got the goal on the major penalty on Sunday. They're starting to look dangerous. If they can maybe gain the zone a little bit cleaner and get into their set and figure out how to go low high a little bit more like they did against Notre Dame, they're going to be a legitimate weapon for this team.
And I was texting you a little bit about my frustrations with Pitlick and some of his passing when he enters the zone. Some of them definitely were not good Friday night, Vigs. And I'm like, frustration.
Maybe Oliver and Rhett can listen to the podcast together, and Oliver can give Rhett some show notes.
So, Kanger, what do you think about this weekend? Heading to Penn State, important games. How many points do they come away with? You predict it right now.
I think there's one straight up win and then one of these shootout nonsense. I think we get 3 points. Just because I think we're doing this right. We don't need to get greedy. We got a tough schedule, and it seems appropriate. If you do that both weekends, you're not going backwards.
All right, Viggs, what do you think?
I just think this Penn State team, as I've talked about all podcasts, will really test Minnesota. And I have a hard time seeing Minnesota get through 2 games without getting in a bad spot. And we saw how Minnesota played, having to be down a goal at the end of the game a couple weeks ago. I think they're going to be in a similar situation for one of the games where they're down 1 and they're trying to tie it up. And that's good experience for them to get. But I just don't feel confident enough yet that they're going to be able to tie it up, send it OT, and win it in OT kind of situation. So I think they're going to get 1 flat-out win, 1 flat-out loss.
Split.
All right. I'm going with 5 points. I think it's going to be a win and then one of those comeback wins, overtime victories, where we've got a player going to the student section like Nyes did last year, trying to get him going. That was enjoyable because he went right to the student section after Cooley set him up for that overtime winner. Mote likes it. He likes it. Jute +1. So you guys get -1s. I get +1 tonight. Of course, we had Pat give you a hard time last week, but who was right? You were, Viggs. Over Pat.
Yep. I mean, Pat is a hockey legend, but he's got the maroon and gold glasses on all the time, and I'm hopeful that this team is going to be in the right spot at the end of the year. They're just not there yet. And I think having a game where they're down a goal at the last minute or 2 is going to be important for them. They need to experience that. Last year's team, they seemed to pull out every single one of those.
They did.
Like
the Penn State game
on
the road. They were down and got that late goal, tie, and then win in overtime.
So I think this team needs to go through a game like that. And I think at Penn State's a perfect spot for it.
Kanger, thanks for joining us on the podcast, man. I know you're going to stick with us for all time, but thanks for being back on.
I know. I love overtime. It's almost like playing beer league. You just go so you can go to the bar. This is like I do so I can go to overtime after.
I remember that from the first show. You're like, come on. We need to get to overtime. Got to get to overtime. So, but thanks for coming on our regularly scheduled show. And thanks for Pulltab bringing GPL Podcast into the family this year. It's been a very fun experience for us. So
we love what you've been doing, like 2 decades or however long it's been. So thanks for being here for Gopher fans.
And we hope to keep being here. So that will do it for this episode of the GPL podcast. Like we mentioned earlier, we'll be back next week to recap Penn State and preview Ohio State before the long break. We'll have Paul Caponegri on with the show that week, as he always is when Ohio State comes to town. Or actually, we go to Ohio State, so that's a little different. So for those of you watching live, stay tuned for overtime. For those of you who would not, we'll catch you next week on the GPL podcast.
All right, before we get to our Buffalo run, the first one of the night is the GPL Podcast Beer of the Week, Bell's Black Note Stout. I almost said Blue Note because it's blue bottle, but
It's blue bottle, yeah.
Yeah, but this one's from 2017. I just picked up some 2023 this week as well. I don't know if I'm going to go with 2 beers tonight or a beer and a bourbon, but this is usually outstanding. Black Note Stout.
Is that thanks to our favorite Rob Shield too?
It is thanks to our favorite Rob Shield, the best stats guy in the country.
Oh, very nice. All right, let's bring him up. Oh wait, let's bring up Kinger by himself here. What do we got here? See, that's the Buffalo Trace. That's what I've got. Yep.
It's a little baby bottle or something. But it looks good. I'm going to do it.
Still delicious, man. So that's all that matters.
Vigo's wreck.
And if Barb, if you're watching right now, could you bring me down some more water? I'm really thirsty. That would be great. Didn't bring down extra water.
John, you seem so much more relaxed on the regular show this time. You just need a little experience. You need to grow a little bit.
He had to have those big wig pro guys on his own podcast. It relaxes you.
Well, it's kind of with the 3 guys and the webcam, there's a lot of like trying to find your spot and not wanting to step on each other. It's like you got tape to tape passing. I'm not good at that.
You realize how much we
an
fake
area
this,
pass.
right? We faked this pretty well.
I feel like we've done pretty well over the years. We're getting some chemistry. Don't shortchange us.
Absolutely.
She's asking if I want the Buffalo Trace too.
Yeah, we can get a herd of buffaloes going. So I got a little buffalo for when Jupe gets his too.
How about a little buffalo, some water, and some Buffalo Trace in? How about that nice little glass that Vig's got for me? That kind of that nice little.
Yeah, I got you a little Glencairn glass. Yeah.
Why don't you bring for your wife? This is really tough look for you, Jupiter.
You know, she thought it was funny. Well, I don't know if she thought it was funny at first. She's like, Jupe's, when you said Jupe's roommate last week, that's part of the intro. I had to put that as part of the intro because that was just hilarious. You need to talk to her about that.
Me?
Yeah, I'll have you guys talk to her about that.
I think the Buffalo Trace is when we start the stomp to St. Paul. It's the stomp St. Paul. It starts tonight.
All right. Well, wait. Hopefully mine's coming down here soon, and we can all put a cheer, and then we'll have this as one of our clips tomorrow for Pulltab Sports to put on their social media.
Let's go.
Let's go.
So honestly, who is more excited for the Brock Faber interview? You or like anyone else?
I got a buddy that he might be on now. He's a pretty big fan. He loaded me up with questions, and I just think Brock, he just kind of makes me laugh. Like he's so disheveled. Like he's just, look at that. It's just great. Yeah, he's like one of us, right? You know, it's the Minnesota thing. Like Fabes. At all, just Fabes. Yeah, but and I really felt bad. Being in Tampa. That was really a tough night, and I can only imagine what it was like for him. I think he was in a dark place for a couple weeks there.
Yeah. I mean, he was pretty focused on that game for coming back and did not even feel like you could have an impact on it at the end. Probably was killer for him. I can't remember. I don't think he was out there for a goal against.
Well, that's the thing. The only thing that haunts me from that game, I don't know how him and Johnson didn't start the overtime with all the chaos that went on before that. But it was what it was.
There's our guy, Kaler, also known as Mote. Great work on the Faber piece, Kinger. So there you go.
He's easy, man. He's funny. He does everywhere he goes, though. He's not dressed properly. He's like my son, these kids that are wearing shorts all the time in the winter, and he'll just have a t-shirt on. They were filming a Chipotle thing with him, and he didn't bring anything wild. And so at one point they were going to put him in an Eriksson Ek jersey. I'm like, that's not a good idea. You can't put him in an Eriksson Ek jersey. That's not okay. And then he was like running into we have a rack in the pod where it's just wild clothes in case we forget to wear the right stuff. And they had to run in there and get Brock some clothes. And yeah, he's losing his wallet. Yeah, he's a mess. But
he's a college student. He really still is a college kid. He's
never had a job either. He's never had a job. Like Billy Guerin's his first boss.
Yeah, he did read 6 chapters of, I've deduced it was The Firm. John.
Oh, it was The Firm. Okay.
I actually guessed it at the time. We had about a bunch of people that was in Memphis. It checks out. So yeah, he's read 6 chapters of The Firm, and it's a work in progress. He may finish it one day.
Okay, got to put this one up for Mote. Jupe, first man to order drinks via GPL chat.
Yeah, that was something, man. I think if I asked my wife that, I would just get a FU back in the. Yeah.
She knows I'm kind of stuck down here, and the refrigerator's way upstairs, so I definitely appreciate her coming down and doing that for me. Plus, she likes to watch you. She likes the Kinger. She thinks she got
name.
Pardon?
What's her name?
Barb.
Nice.
Barbara Smith, the oldest 80-year-old name you could find out there. Barbara Smith.
Does that mean she's a Barbie? Like, did she have a big summer with the Barbie movie stuff?
We didn't see the movie, but I do call her Barbie, and she's fine with it. So doesn't like Babs though. Don't do the Babs thing, right, Barbie? Should probably chime in here eventually.
Hey, have you guys eaten the elk brat at Tom Reed's?
No.
I haven't been to Reed's in ages.
Since having children, I've not been dominating West 7th like I did in my 20s. So I've not had the elk brat down there.
So
is it better than the frog legs at the Graduate?
Yeah, I don't know what happened at the Beacon. Actually, I'd like to chat to so I used to always go to Big Ten Subs, which was the best. It was the best. And then that closed. And the Beacon had a run for us that was great. The food was really good cocktails, but they had a bad experience there last time with the food. So I don't know, what's the best pregame situation for Mariucci? Like, where would you eat? I guess I would go back to the Beacon at the Graduate Hotel and just see if it's better, but I don't know, Stub and Herbs, or I don't know where you go. Not Wild Wings, probably.
I've done Wild Wings. I've done Wild Wings a couple times when they've had some 8:00 games. Like Rob Scheel and I will go down early before the crowd gets, just to get something to eat because we know it's going to be a long night.
I mean, if I'm looking for something to eat before the game, my 2 picks are Blue Door Pub on Como and get like a Blue Sea. And they've got a good beer list, and they have a couple wines. They're good. Or I'll go to Manning's, which is like a Como kind of more divey bar. And just they have giant hamburgers and like 7-year-old waitresses who have worked there, for a long, long time. And then college kids, and they've got like a full bar and stuff there. So those are my 2 spots that I go, and they're kind of a ways. They're a ways from the arena. You'll have to like drive and then drive again, but
I like
those
it.
are my 2. If I was going just for a drink, it would probably be Stub and Herbs, though. Best beer list on campus.
Kinger, have you finished your basement since last year?
No.
To his left there, I don't think it's finished.
No, I definitely haven't. All of the money I had, it took to build what we've built. And so I don't know when we're going to finish this. We got 2 sub pumps down here. So I'm also trying to ride out a few calendar years just to make sure I don't have any surprises down here. But it's nice with a kind of college age kids. An unfinished basement is a paradise with a 24-pack of Coors and a TV leaning against the wall and some kids sleeping on the couch. I think it's good for their age to have it unfinished. Not even close to finished. Thanks for asking, though.
Hey, we got repeat watchers. So
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I thought about my background. I'm like, man, I should have like a jersey or something. I could have done this angle here, which would have been even more unfinished if I kind of went like this situation. Oh no, there we go. Fumble. But
as the Buffalo doesn't go down.
No, I did almost spill my beer there, but yeah, someday this will be cool. Maybe it's cool already. I don't know.
Like I said, I finished mine not too long ago. I love it down here, but I'm down here 40 hours a week. So
have you shown the people your favorite picture?
They probably saw it in overtime last week when I had it up. I was going to have Deutsch talk about Faber, and we never did because we were drinking too much and I got sidetracked.
We also had the 5-box session during overtime. That was a lot of talent on the screen.
It was I saw what we've got. Cove is watching tonight. It's always good to have Cove was part of the overtime last week. We had Brian Deutsch, Craig Floor, Hammy came on for a little bit. We had Alex Micheletti, filling in for Dad since Dad never stays up late.
He's
throw up some cheap paneling and then it's done. Now, don't do the paneling. Don't do the paneling. Don't.
No. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I guess people don't. We had a home thing at Pulltab, like a home show, and they said that people don't really like to hang out in basements, which I think is true. Like if you have a party, everyone's always in your kitchen standing around, right? And they can't really migrate them down. Like if you put a big bar in your basement, it doesn't really work. So I don't know exactly what. Maybe a hot tub or something weird.
Well, I got to go to the nanny compound for a story I did on the 3 generations of nannies.
Yeah,
and we got to. It was really interesting. I come into their kitchen, they're all having a big meal and stuff, and they're offering me like bottles of wine and scotches and bourbons. I was like, I should probably just do the interview because I want to be professional. I'm writing this for the Athletic, all this stuff. And I get down into their basement. And it's just like a card room, cigar room, like doors that open to a patio to have cigars outside, like just very, very fancy. I'm just like, I bet there's some great card games down here with Lou Nanny, like trading players, like in hands.
So was it
like
Lou's grandpa?
Yeah,
That's Lou.
Grandpa Lou's, yeah. In Edina. It was cool spot.
That's description of the nanny basement made me feel as good as you talking about Penn State made me feel worried. So I wish that was because I'm really like the way it wasn't. Although I don't think I know how many points you get for a college hockey game. I got the NHL point system in my head, but yeah, I'm nervous now, man. They're just gonna bum rush us, huh?
Well, they're going to pressure them. Like, they're not going to play like a straight up, sit back and trap or play a normal game. Like, they're going to try to pressure a team into mistakes. That's how they get success. I think what Godowski is learning is like, you can't do that and be a winning program. You can be dangerous, but you can't win every night by doing that, especially when you go up against a good team.
That Godowski, he's a guy you could see in that nanny basement too. I mean, he seems cool. Like, he's got the look. Did you smoke a cigar when you were there?
I didn't. I was too intimidated. There's just so much nanniness.
So much nanniness.
I bet if you would have smoked a cigar, you would have had like cheekbones and dimples by the time you left the place. Would have been.
I might have had a job at the state fair. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I could have worked at Tino's place.
Tino's, yeah.
I saw him work with Tyler. That was great. Yeah.
So, Biggs, you're probably too young, but Kinger, you're not. Do you remember him playing for the Kicks and Strikers?
Yeah. Didn't he always have a parrot on his shoulder in like the?
We had a parrot hanging in the goal.
That's right, Tino Lettieri. Yeah, he was a big thing, man.
He was like a personality.
Yeah. No, nannies have had a good run, man. It's like they live European, even though they're in Edina. It's great.
All right.
I did have to give Lou a hard time though, because he's got Wisconsin plates on his car.
That's odd.
It's a money thing.
It's cheaper tabs in Wisconsin, and they've got the cabin out there, and they spend a lot of time over there. So I was like, how hard of a time do I give Lou about this? But I let it slide.
So many people do
that.
I let
it slide.
A lot of people do that. All right, so when we became part of the Pulltab family, we had a little party this late summer, early fall, out at the big Pulltab estate,
studios in Stillwater.
And some interesting things had happened right before we got there. And I didn't know it at the time, but I kind of outed you a little bit to your wife, because your wife thought everything was kind of normal. But I don't want to give the story away, but I hope I didn't get you in too much trouble with the wife.
Yeah. So, okay. So we had that lead-in sounds so much more scandalous than this was. But so we have a couple investors in Pulltab, and one of them is a pilot, and he had flown in with his wife, who's also an investor, and I thought I'll pick them up at the airport in St. Paul, and I'll drive them to this open house we had at Pulltab. And I went over there, and I'm waiting for him to land. And right while I'm sitting there, my wife texts me, "I hope you're not in your Jeep." And I was in my Jeep Wrangler, top down. And it was like, I swear to God, it was the first time I even thought about it. Like, yeah, this is a terrible car to pick someone up in from the airport, because someone's going to have to ride in the back. And then I have kind of a finicky, seatbelt that every once in a while doesn't work in the passenger side. So they walk out to the car, and they're kind of looking at the whole thing like, really? And sure enough, his wife sits in the front seat. I can't get it to lock. And I'm like, I said to her at one point, I'm like, "You want to drive and I'll sit here without the seatbelt?" And it's like, "Oh, I don't think that's a good idea." And then they remind me that they had a car accident a few months earlier, a severe one in Costa Rica, in a Jeep Wrangler. So I end up having to put them both in the back. I'm driving, and everyone on the way to Stillwater is just looking at me like, what an asshole. Like, because it's obviously not like a lift or something, and I got them both in the back of a Jeep, so they just think I put them back there. And Jeep shakes a little bit. It's got death rattle. finally get to Stillwater, and I'm in such a hurry to get him into the office so my business partner can I can pass him off and kind of try to do some damage control, that when I pulled the car into a spot, it was a handicap spot. And so I park and I'm getting out. She says, this is a handicap spot. And I'm like, you know what, at this point, I'm just going to do it all. Let's just for a minute. I think we're way past the point of worrying about any of this. Yeah, that was terrible. And I knew it was bad when my business partner had a photo that they had taken of themselves in the back seat and only sent it to him, which so I don't know. I think it's okay, but
he did take them to dinner or took them out, right?
Yeah, got them out of there right away. They went to like probably Matchsticks or something and had dinner. It was well intended too. I was like, I'm gonna pick them up myself at the airport, and I just had lots of what I was driving and how clean it was, and there's like a little Elvis hanging from the rear view mirror. I mean, it was like a bad Coen Brothers movie or something, if there is such a thing.
And
I think you were just giving them the John King experience, though, really, right? I mean, they now have a story that they will probably be able to share with people all the time at their holiday parties this year. It was like, oh yeah, we're invested in this Pulltab Sports. We got to tell you about this John King guy. And it's just going to be perfect. It's going to be great fodder for conversation.
I remember
love it.
When I was talking to them, it was so loud that I'm trying to have a conversation with them, but they're both in the back seat and they can't really hear me. So I'm turning, I'm probably taking my eyes off the road, yelling back to them. And I had told them like a food recommendation. And then I remember just thinking, after this experience, there's no way that anything I'm saying, they're just like, no, whatever he's telling us we would like, we're never going to do ever, because this is how he lives his life. And like, yeah, I need a help. I need some assistance or something.
This is the part where I feel bad, because
you're the one that
you had mentioned some of it, and then you didn't say anything. But what you didn't say is that you never replied to your wife, "Are you in the Jeep?"
No, because
I'm kind of like, yeah, he was in the Jeep, and you weren't in the Jeep, were you? She kind of looks at you. He's like, yeah. And that's where I got you in trouble, and I apologize. I didn't know.
Yeah. It was not the white glove treatment that they were hoping for, but luckily I got a good business partner, and he put it back together.
And you know what? They did come back and visit later, and they definitely
they're still in our lives. Yeah,
they had a great sense of humor about it, so that was it turned out pretty darn good. But it's just another one of those stories.
I think my favorite moment though was, well, you can drive, and I'll just sit here without a seatbelt. Like, no, that's not it. Yeah. Oh well.
Cheers.
Triple stomp to St. Paul. Let's go.
Stomp. There we go. Buffalo stomp to St. Paul. Mm-hmm. Mote wants to be your assistant now. Mote.
I'd love it, man. I've been hearing this name Mote for like 10 years now. Who's
that?
Mote?
Is Mote. Taylor Kern is. That was his username on originally the PrideOnIce.com message board. And I want to say probably USCHO message board as well.
And was he the guy that like ran the student section back in the day? I'm thinking of some other guy that was around forever that I thought was in the.
I don't think so. Talk to us, Mote. Where have you been, man? Yeah, and Mote, he was always, he always loved having Hammy on when Hammy was on the show. We had Hammy on last week, and Mote missed the 250th show.
What? What was he doing?
I don't know. I work for the government. He missed the show. He watched it later, but then he missed us live. And that's the whole fun part.
That's hurtful. I'd like to meet Mote. I'll have to,
Kid
cool
shit.
sounding.
Kid stuff. Man, that's kind of like that's life though. Viggs, you know that more than anyone else right now because you've got the younger kids and we've got the older kids, so they're not as much around.
What's the youth hockey?
The Minneapolis Titans. We're well under the way of the season. We're playing games. We got tournaments coming up, going out of town. All kinds of fun stuff.
The Now rankings, Youth Hockey Hub. Now rankings.
They do not rank the Squirt C teams. So we're like the Mighty Ducks, Kinger. We are the North and Northeast kids. They're sports sampling kids. They're not going to the Breakfast Club to do puck skills and stuff. You know, we grow a lot during the season. We took it to Mahtomedi the other day, beat them 5-rip. We took it to East Metro the other day. So the kids are improved from where they were last year, and we'll see where we are at the end of the year when we take on White Bear Lake.
I'd love to see it. Did you say sports sampling?
Sports sampling. I encourage all my kids to play hockey, soccer, baseball, football, tennis, golf, swim. Do everything at this age. I don't want you to be the best 10, 11-year-old. I want you to do everything and figure out what you like.
I like it. You must say a lot of, let's just win the next period. That's probably in your vernacular.
Let's just get better. I had a kid ask me during the middle of the game, Coach, would you rather us lose and play well or win and play poorly? I was like, I always want you to play well because it's not about winning at 10.
That's a smart.
Yeah. So we have fun with it. We try to keep it going. And
I'm muted. Now you're getting advice from Motzko on some of the coaching drills, weren't you?
Yeah, Motz, I wore my coaching jacket availability last week. And he's like, Coach, what do you got going on? I was like, well, I got my practice plan right here. What do you think? And he's looking through it. And he's like, yeah, we're doing some of the same stuff because our kids were passing to the D up top. And then our D were just like, I don't know what to do. He gave me the puck and I'm just going to sit here and wait for someone to take it away. No, we got to do point shot offense. So you can, walk it to the middle and shoot with your forehand. No backhands, walk it down the wall, look for a screen and tip. And Bob's like, we're doing the same stuff. I was like, see, 10 years old, 22 years old. It's the same game.
That's cool. Hey, did you see the game earlier this year? And Motzko was on the bench, and I've never seen him this way. Somebody was coming to the bench, and he said something like, sit the F down. Like they caught him, and it was just terrifying. Like, I don't know who the player was or what they had done, but it was just like they were clearly trying to say something to him coming to the like this is what I was trying, and he was just like, sit the F down.
I guarantee you I know what play this was. Bryce Brodzinski took like a penalty after the whistle where he lifted a guy's stick into his face and got penalized after the whistle. And it was a nothing play. So you had to go sit for 2. And when you got out of the box, there was a rush scoring chance. And so Brodzinski went in on the play and took a 35, 40-second shift. And I think he was going to stay out for another rush. And he came to the bench and Bob was just furious with it.
That's what it was, because he came down almost to the point of grabbing someone to pull him into the bench. Mm-hmm. And I saw Lucia do that when what was the goalie's name that gave up the full ice? He's
crazy.
He left 2 seconds early, and they had this amazing shot of Lucia walking across the ice, turning and looking at him. Never played again. I don't think he ever was in the net ever again for the Gophers. And this was the first time I've seen Bob with that face, where I was like, that'll get your attention, man.
They tell it to each other the way it is. And Bryce is not afraid to speak his mind back every once in a while. I don't think Rhett Pitlick is going to say anything back to Bob when he's in that mindset, but Bryce is going to speak his mind a little bit.
Yeah, that's good. Well, he's a 5th-year senior, right? Isn't he?
Yeah, he's a graduate student, so he's maybe earned a little bit.
He's a grown man.
So I had a Detroit and Rangers game on earlier tonight just to fill time. And the first time I had ever seen this happen, a A Ranger, I don't remember the players,
Oh, I saw it. Yeah.
reached in, looked like he high sticked him. Got hit right in the mouth. 4 minutes. 4 minutes. You're bleeding. You're out. All of a sudden, they start playing the replay. And the first replay, you're like, yep, he got the stick. It went right up to his face. And then the crowd just starts booing like crazy. They show the replay again. And what you don't notice is when the stick comes down, the Detroit player actually grabs his stick and pulls it up to his face. Injured himself, probably. But I have never seen a reversal like that. The referees went and talked to New York or wherever, Toronto, and they said the player did it to himself, no penalty. And I'm surprised they didn't give a penalty to the guy who did it, because that should be some kind of misconduct or something for purposely pulling. I mean, pull the stick up.
Unsportsmanlike. It's like diving. It's like diving.
Embellishment.
It was, and I couldn't believe he didn't get called. Of course, the coach is like, "Are you effing kidding me? That's unbelievable." I'm like, watch the replay, dude. Did you see it, Kinger? I mean, he did kind of grab a stick when it went on there, and he pulled it up to his own face.
Yeah, no, it was weird that they switched it. That arena,
Well, they made the right call though, so they did the right thing.
Madison Square Garden is just an amazing place to watch hockey, and it for a Wednesday night, it was just electric in there. Like that call changed because the crowd was losing their mind, and then they just stopped and looked at it, and that team they're good, man. That New York team, they're scary. I mean, we beat them kind of wild, but I guess one of the two times, but yeah, they're good. That was a weird play. That thing will be all over. Right when it happened, I said to my wife, I'm like, that's going to be all over the internet. I mean, because it was such a unique hockey play. It's funny.
Well, Barb she was standing there telling me about her day because she had just gotten home from work. She works at a clinic, and she's like, we both kind of stopped when it happened. She looked at the TV. She's like, what the hell is that? It was definitely an odd play. Really strange. Kinger, have you done a wild show post new coach or post firing?
No, the day. So we recorded with who did we have? We were doing like an intro to Middleton, I think, and they canceled practice that day, which is super weird. And all the guys still came in because it was kind of pins and needles. So everyone was working out, even though they canceled practice. But we didn't think, I didn't think that there was going to be a change. I thought it was another strategy to kind of be like, I'm done with you kids. You figure it out yourselves. Right. And, but then right at about 4:00 that day, it happened. And, Dean would never go on the podcast. He doesn't like stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see if this Hines will do that, or if I don't know what he's like as far as that stuff goes. But I went last night, and it was a much needed victory. So I'm hopeful that it doesn't seem the West is a little. You could get into the playoffs still, even with the bad start, because the points are lower. So, I'm hoping for that.
Yeah, you've kind of had some little negativity on the podcast. Even it's it's gotta be tough.
Well, it was, and last night was great. Goldie scored, and he was like so happy. He basically continued skating into the net after he scored. Kind of a cool play.
You're just hoping he wasn't going to get a groin pull or something because his legs are all spread.
When he did this, he really kind of slowed down and did this weird move. And that was a good win. If we could go beat the Blues, beat Nashville tomorrow, and beat Chicago and the baby Jesus on Sunday, that would be a pretty good start. Get 6 points in the bank. I mean, I know it is 6 points in the NHL. The college thing, so I still don't understand it. It's like, is it 3 points every game, and it's 2 in regulation, and then overtime is
no. It's 3 in regulation. If you win in regulation, it's 3 points.
Okay.
Once you get to overtime, each team already has a point.
You go back.
So that's
to
2
one.
of the points. Who's going to get the extra point? You're going to get the extra point for a total of 3 points.
They don't have a bonus. They don't have a bonus point like the NHL. Like in
Which
the
is
NHL,
why the NHL sucks. The NHL
you can
should
have,
not have that.
you have bonus points.
Yeah. So what I was trying to say, my prediction, to be clear, is outright victory. And then I think we would lose a shootout. So would that be 5 points?
4 points. 4 points and 2 points on the weekend.
I still don't understand. So I got to outright victory.
So they get the win. That's 3 points.
Yeah.
Game
three.
two,
Yeah.
they get to overtime. They either lose or lose in a shootout. They've already gained 1 point. So that's your 4 points in the weekend. And Penn State would have 2 points because they would have earned 0 points Friday night and they would have earned 2 points Saturday.
Okay.
So it's all equal. It's an equal amount of points no matter what. There's 6 points every weekend.
So I said 3.
The NHL is a little different per game, though, Vigs. It's like isn't it 2 points a game when you start? So regulation, you get 2 points for a win. But if both teams get to overtime, each team is 1 point each.
Someone gets a third.
Someone gets a third. So that's why you
can have a 3-point game instead of a 2-point game.
That's right.
Keeps everybody tighter in the standings.
For some reason, I think that way better than the college one, because the college one has there are 2 different rules. The subset, because each game in the NHL is worth 2 points,
but it's not.
Well, because you're saying one team gets 1 point and the other team gets 2. I see what you're saying, but a win is always 2. I guess is the way I.
Yeah. I guess with college, every point is available. So if you get 2 points, they get no points. If you get 1 point, they get 1 point. I mean, and
it gets even weirder when you look at the pairwise, because if you tie on the road, you actually get like a bonus a little bit because it's a road tie. And if you win in overtime, you get a bonus for the overtime win, even though it's not like a full win. So it's very complicated, Kinger.
Yeah.
That's why you have college professors who do these things.
That's right. Hey, I want to let you know my battery is relatively low. I left my cord in the office, so when I'm gone, I'm gone. That's the way it's going to go. When I just am gone.
Hey, that'll be solid, man. Just all of a sudden he just disappears.
It'll just be like it'll just go like
poof in the wind. He's gone.
Mike drop. Hey, what about Aaron Hugland? Hugland? That's how you say
Hugland.
it.
Hugland.
I've always really liked him and how he plays, and I know he was hurt, but he kind of wasn't hurt. What do we expect out of him? We didn't even say his name tonight.
I think you've got just a consistent player who is going to help others. I don't think he's a generator of offense by himself. I think he can win a puck battle and give it to somebody else, but he's not going to put up a ton of points. It's just the way he is.
So who are your back as we head towards the latter part of the season? If you're buying some future stock in a couple guys, who would be your sleepers to break out here?
I think Connor Kurth is one of my sleepers. I watched him this last weekend. He's starting to get it.
Got off the scoring schneid.
Yeah, he got 2 goals, and he's getting it not just with the goal scoring. He's getting those acceleration bursts to separate that I haven't seen him do before. It was kind of before he's like, okay, I'm in a good position. I'm going to get going. I'm going to get my eyes up. Now he's just like, I got to get some speed to separate and then make a play rather than, okay, I got the puck. What am I going to do next? And I think that's going to be a game changer for him because he just gets a little bit more space to finish. And I think, before it's like there's always somebody on him and he's just so worried about getting rid of it that he's not really in a scorer's mentality. So I think he's going to come around here in the second half. And I do think Oliver Moore eventually figures it out. I think he's got the right mindset. He's a really hard worker.
He's fast.
Yeah.
He reminds me of Walker, freshman year Walker, where it's almost like his legs are moving faster than his brain,
Yeah.
Well, you kind of made that point last week, Figs. And Pat did too. Pat's like, sometimes you don't have to be the fastest. Sometimes you got to slow it down.
Well, you got to be deceptive. You got to be able to change speeds. when you're that fast, if you're that fast all the time, you're going to run out of space. The rink is only so big, unless you're Cullen Munson on the bandy rink. There's tons of space out there. You can just fly all over. But in the NHL size rink, it's tight, it's small. You're going to run into somebody, you're going to run out of space. You got to manipulate it.
Josh is asking here, 2 months in, best guess who will be in St. Paul in April? Kinger, who do you think is going to be in St. Paul? I know you got Minnesota, but who else?
Well, I want Minnesota. I think BC's absolutely loaded with studs, and they remind me of like the Michigan team a couple years ago and us last year. So I would say BC. I watched Celebrini in Chicago last year, and he's the best. He's better than Fantilli. He's the best junior player I've ever seen, and I've looked at way too many of them. I don't know. They feel like a team that gets there and loses in the semifinal. I don't know how good BU is overall, but he is so good that it could change everything. I don't know. Maybe BU, BC. It's almost like the bean pot. Maybe we throw Michigan State and Minnesota in there and get weird.
Ooh. Vigs? What are your thoughts?
I think one of BC, one of BU loses in like a regional final with that youth. Like, I think it's hard for teams that are that young to get there unless they have depth. And I know that they're getting closer, but I just think it's too soon for them both to make it. I think one of them makes it. I think BU is probably that team. Sorry, Kinger. It's a tough one. Denver, like Denver a lot. I think Quinnipiac's going to get there in Minnesota. Sorry to use that Q word again.
Quinnipiac and Minnesota in the final at the X. Revenge Tour 2024.
Their fans were something, man. It was not an easy hotel lobby to be in. Let's put it that way.
Really?
Oh, and I don't blame them. I mean, they
no.
But they were just. You had to go to your room. If you were a Gopher fan, you just had to go up in the elevator and be like, it is what it is. Get a drink to go, because you couldn't even sit down there.
Rand Pecknold had like one of the best lines of the week. Was after they won their first game, he's like, all right, we have to do bed check on all the kids, and we have to send all the girls back to their own rooms because all these girls are just roaming the hotel, just looking to celebrate. It's like, we got to get this team ready for one more game. And you could just tell he's just like, I know we're all excited, but we're not done yet. And it was just hilarious because you could just see that Quinnipiac, they were so high. That whole weekend is. I'm glad I wasn't in their hotel probably, but it was interesting for sure.
He did it. He coached a hell of a game. That pull on the goalie with the penalty. I mean, it just was. I knew we were. I don't know. That was just so. That was so awful.
Well, and I'd given him a hard time about World Juniors because when he was coaching the USA team in the World Junior tournament, like he didn't do anything to change the game plan. He just was like, oh, we'll pull it out eventually. And he did no adjustments. And to see him adjust it the way he did, that was impressive. Sorry, Mote. It's hard. It's hard. We've got the bourbon out. We're coming together.
Truth comes out.
This is like therapy for guys. We got our podcast going. Kinger's going to have his therapy on his Sunday morning coming down podcast and talk about, all the problems in life. If anyone enjoys our podcast and enjoys Kinger, that's a good listen. Even my dad has started to add that to his routine.
Nice.
So
I am there. I had the greatest drinking story of all time last December. I really do think it's right up there. Besides maybe the members of Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses, it's up there. And I'm going to actually finally tell it. I'm waiting a full calendar year before I share the story because I don't want to. I didn't do anything like that since. So it's going to be a full episode, December 17th. Check it out. Something to look forward to.
Where do you do? Are you doing the show from your studios now?
That one
record it there.
I do in my basement or I do in my bedroom or just me and a mic and I don't really know that I need to film myself talking,
Yeah.
right? Kinda.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost better that it's just sort of in your head a little bit. But yeah, that started during COVID. I don't know it was as horrible as COVID was. There was a lot of creative things that started, I think, at that time.
I was impressed that you put your cell phone story from Tampa on that podcast. I would have gone to the grave with it, Ginger. I wasn't going to tell anybody about that whole experience. Like, you were so anxious on that front nine of the golf course, worrying about your phone. I felt like it was hard to connect with you.
Well, and even the reason I'm on my phone tonight is I packed up my laptop at the office and I just left it in the office. But I always have that little 5% thought in my head that I set the backpack on top of my car, which I would have no reason to do. But I can like picture myself doing that. So it might be sitting on the street in Stillwater, where I park. But I don't know why I would have done it. But it's just it comes out where I'm like, or maybe I said it. I don't know why I would need to put it up there. I wasn't carrying anything else, but I think it's in my office. We'll find out.
I have a similar story. I go up to Duluth and I go up and see my buddy up there probably about once a summer at least and play a bunch of golf at Northland Country Club. And one year, one of the first years I went, I brought like a nice pair of dress shoes with. I was thinking, country club it. I should have a nice pair of shoes to change into after the round. I don't want to be in my Birks. Now I've learned, you can just wear the Birks. It's fine. But I brought dress shoes. They were nice. And on my way out of town, I remember like packing up and I'm kind of stumbly because my buddy's like a distiller. He's got his like Duluth whiskey project. He's making his own bourbon and rye and he, is really into it. So we obviously drank a lot. And so I'm putting stuff away to come back to the Twin Cities. My wife is texting me. He's like, what time are you going to be home? Have you left yet? Do you need to stop on the way home? I've been home with the kids. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting there. I'm getting there, putting stuff away. And I get home and my wife is like, oh, where are your shoes? And I'm like, shoes. Let's see, I was carrying them. And then I had to get to my car keys. I put them on the roof. And so I'm sure I put my shoes on the top of my Pilot to get to my keys and then like putting stuff in the car and then checking my phone and texting and just being like rattled, probably like, a little hungover or something and driving home. And I'm sure somewhere on Superior Street in Duluth are two pairs of Echoes or a pair of Echoes just laying there for somebody. Hope they're 12 wide.
They're honking at you. You think they're being rude, but they're just telling you got your shoes on the hood. Yeah. I do that often where I'll set something somewhere. And I think as I do it, I think this is not a good spot to put this. And I still put it there. And then you really can't remember where it is the next day. Like I left my wallet the other day on this brown wooden post on one of our railings. And when I did it, I'm like, this is not a good spot because it's camouflaged. And even though I had that little moment of thinking that, you still can't find it the next day because it's just like, it's brutal.
I resemble many of those remarks right there.
Yeah.
Because I'm old. I'm older, a little older than you, Kinger, so it's bad. It's bad.
But that Uber driver was so happy to see us when we finally did connect you with your phone.
I think I tipped him $100. What was the deal I made? I had to give him how much money to come? I don't know.
Old.
He drove back.
Well, like I was gonna give him cash, and you were gonna tip him.
Yes, that's what we had to do.
So I gave him some cash up front, and we tried to negotiate it. Hey, can I just tip you and not have to take Vigo's cash? And he's like, no deal. No, I definitely want cash when I get there.
Back in the day. Once I got that over with, it was great.
Can we go to Tampa every other year?
That's the best frozen. Well, actually, Boston's awesome too. The year before, because they got that bar with the 5 floors or whatever, and it's just every different floor is a different school. But Tampa was awesome. You had those wings at Hat Tricks.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. I was with Randy and Jess. breaking down the scribes in Tampa. And so we enjoyed ourselves there. I was kind of shocked like what Hat Tricks was once I got there. I had no idea. I just was told I had to go there. But it was enjoyable.
Double season.
I think we went. When did we go to? Is that the Hat Tricks that was just kind of north of the arena, off by itself? Gosh, I want to say some of us went there on the USCHO party night.
It's by you're thinking of the other place on the way back, I think, but this is the one right by a college like the University of South Tampa or something. All the Tampa jerseys hanging. It's a hockey bar, obviously, Hat Tricks, but they season the wings, cook them, and then season them again. And I think it's the best wing.
Really?
Pat Maroon was familiar with their work as well, so I think it's a trustworthy play.
And they had like a duck poutine too, which was good.
Yeah, we went to Hat Tricks that night of the USCHO party. We actually got kicked out of that place we were in, and Randy went with us. A bunch of us went. We just walked straight down the street to Hat Tricks, and we're there for a little while. So,
yeah, Splitsville was awesome. That was a cool little spot in Tampa for all the Gopher fans to be. They kept playing the Rouser every 10 minutes.
Great.
That's what you do.
And so many people traveled. I mean, there was
a lot more people than even in 2012. It was a lot of people, a lot of alums, and it was pretty well. The game itself, or the games, 3/4 Minnesota fans.
Yeah,
at least.
Mm-hmm.
And first one was so. I really hope the St. Paul thing happens. I mean, that would be amazing. They would get a lot of support in that building if we can find a way through.
That's where I met maybe one of our new sponsors here for Overtime and made the podcast, Chad Nelson of Nelson Family Farms. And he's going to be hooking us up with some hoodies for the family farm and some steaks. I heard a steer just got slaughtered this week and they're butchering it up, and some of those steaks are coming our way. So that's going to be fun. We're going to get some material from Nelson Family Farm to share with everybody.
My mouth is watering just thinking about that.
Yeah, you can get some family meat.
He's got to be so cool. He's like killing his own food, and he named his son with an X, Jackson with an X. I mean, this guy is like a Tyler Sheridan character.
Well, I had to rewatch like the Gopher Sports digital production people went out to Laverne to film the farm.
We just watched that this week too.
Yeah, and it's like you got Jackson out there vaccinating the cattle and like wrangling them with his dog and four-wheeler. You know, it's just like straight out of Yellowstone, like real family farming.
Yeah, he's got a big hit that senior night last night. I remember his family had all big pictures of like his head on a stick or something, and he had a nice group there supporting him. How does that work when you come back for the 5th year? Do you get another? Do you run it back as a team thing? Get like
I don't know. I hope so.
I mean, that's just the same thing. You already got the head on the stick. Let's go.
Or maybe they turn into presenters. Like, we've already gone through it, so now they like help the families out there.
They run the mic.
Yeah.
Oh, I see Barb is still watching. I see she commented, yes, I think Hat Tricks is where Jen Floor and I may have had a few beverages.
Nice.
Jen Floor, of course, the Craig Floor's wife. We had a good time. We had a good time there.
Nobody asked this, but Macklin Celebrini will lead the country in scoring this year as a freshman.
It's kind of what it looks like.
He is a freak of nature.
But he got destroyed on the dot by the Cornell guy. Cornell's Jackson Nelson, I think, took 30 draws against him or against BU the other day and won like 25 of them. Just, get out of here, kid. That's my puck. Yeah. Until they get in transition, then Macklin's like, yeah, this is where I can do some stuff too.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, now Steve's bringing up another thing. Correct, Barb. That was what, 30 seconds at Gopher Play. So what he's saying is that every time Craig Floor and Jen Floor go to a place, someone recognizes Craig within 30 seconds. And who was that person that came right up to Craig that night at Hat Tricks? Steve himself. Jen's like, I cannot bring him anywhere because Craig knows everybody. He just does. He can go anywhere and he'll be recognized. It's ridiculous. You know, you got the Mariucci thing. You've got the State Fair grandstand thing. He's got the connections.
Man of the people.
He is. Of course, then Barb last weekend, like, Craig looks bored. He's not bored. That's just Craig's face.
So, Kinger, when's the next time you're going to grace 3-man with your presence?
3-man?
Yeah.
3M Arena at Mariucci.
Oh, 3M. Well, we lost when I went. I think the only highlight, I was at the Friday Notre Dame game, and that Snuggerud,
tough one.
That Snuggerud goal was pretty great, where he just like spun around on he'll shoot from anywhere. He's a trigger man. But I got to get back. I'm going to be there for sure on the Colorado College game on like January 7th because my daughter's in town. But they're on the road, right, in Penn State, and then is Ohio State also on the road?
Yep.
2 road trips.
I don't like going to the U.S. game. It's kind of weird. So I guess Colorado College, which is the next
back on the horse.
That's
it is the
next home
series.
game. Yep.
And then they've Robert Morris after that.
Correct.
How do we end
Derek
up playing?
Schoolies?
Seems like
that's the one where I'm going to be doing a podcast, hopefully from Dominican Republic.
I think you could actually do a podcast from the bench at the Robert Morris game. I think they could probably let you.
I don't think Slarksy would like that.
Robert Morris.
Well,
Okay.
the thing with Robert Morris is they went out of business for a little bit, and then they jumped back in. And I think is kind of a favor to Derek Schooley, who's been a long time college hockey guy. Bob's like, yeah, come play us. We'll give you some money. Because the U pays a guarantee to all their opponents. So I think that helps.
Thanks for making me feel bad. Jeez. Robert,
What am I, 3 for 3 now, Kinger? 3 for 3 on things to make you feel bad?
No.
Do you want to talk Edina football?
Oh.
I mean, or is that bad because they lost?
Well, it was bad because they lost. But I think the Nanny Caves, like the underground cigar lair, I'm just going to stay there. That seems good. The clothing. No, the Edina football, man. That was a chance to change my legacy. You know, I played Edina football. If they would have won that state championship, I was telling everybody I would have been like Ken Anderson from the Bengals. Remember him? But then it's like Joe Burrow, and like I can go all the Edina football stuff. I'm just like, what's up? Yeah, I played. Yeah, we were always good. We've always been good. You know, Anders
conference.
Me,
honorable mention.
beat Eden Prairie. Nobody lived there at the time, but
Eden Prairie wasn't a team when I was in high school. Barely. I don't think Grant was there yet.
We were the Lake Blue, but that was an amazing football game. If you didn't watch it, the people, he got stopped at the half-yard line going for 2 to win. So 12 seconds left. Coach goes for 2, touches his knee, reaching for the end zone, just like I think it was the Titans in the Super Bowl maybe many years ago. And then it was over. But I liked it. A lot of the Edina people, they like that. Go for 2. We say winner's mentality. That's what we say. Winner's mentality.
Ooh. Well, we're the little town on the west side of the dream. That's how you dream. Dream
right.
big.
That's right. Hell of a year, though. Hockey kid playing quarterback. Mason West. So that was good.
Yeah, he looks like a player. And as being a sports sampling advocate, I think that's a great thing to have these kids playing multiple sports. You learn different roles, different strategies, different routines. I think you get burned out if you just train for one thing all the time. It's good to
Blow
have
out a
variety.
knee like Mr. Budish did.
Well,
Yeah.
That sucked for him.
But you have these kids that don't play other sports, and they've always been a first-line player their entire life, and they get to college,
100%.
and all of a sudden they're a role player, and they're like, what the hell is this? I don't like this. I want to transfer. Is that really the best thing for them? They got to stick to it and figure out how to contribute as a teammate in other ways.
Yeah, I like the multi-sport athlete thing. I think it's great. It's rare now. I mean, as a parent, I think they just feel like their kid's falling behind if they're not playing all year. But
and honestly, one sport is, it's expensive enough as it is, and it's just getting even more expensive because it's not like it was when we would have been in high school, Kinger. I mean, they've got these camps, they've got everything. It's just doing more than one sport has just got to be a drag for a parent and a kid.
Well, here's the thing though. If you're playing high school sports at that point, your season, you're not really paying extra for that season, are you?
Yeah.
Like there's usually like an activity fee or something. But if you were to play like football, hockey, baseball, like you're training every day, like you're getting activity and you're becoming an athlete. And then you just have to cover your summer training stuff. From that standpoint, I think it's like a deal to be a multi-sport athlete.
Didn't Bludish blow his knee on a moped? That's a different time. But he did injure it as a quarterback in high school, I'm pretty sure.
And he did also get
beginning of his senior year.
He did also have a moped incident.
Yeah, true. So,
mopeds were outlawed for the team the next week for a while.
It's so weird coming in the building and seeing nothing parked right by the entrance anymore.
I think Bryce still has his. I think Bryce is the only player that's got a moped right now, but otherwise they're pretty.
I never
just like when Bryce came back to the bench and had words with Bob. I think Bryce had words where he said no more mopeds. He's like, come on, I already bought it. I've already been riding it for a while. Just have I been hurt yet? Well, no. So
I remember I would park lot 37 behind Mariucci, and it would be winter. And I was parking there, and then I was going to go over to the Graduate and eat and then come back to the game. And those guys were all on the, what are those Lime scooters back in the day? They would, they were all around the U, and it was complete snow ice. Two of them, one, and they're like sport coat. There'd be like two players on the back of those Lime scooters just cruising in the snow and ice. I was just like, hockey players are just hockey players, man. You can't, there's nothing you can, no matter how good a coach you are, it's just like they can't help themselves. They're like
the funniest thing though is when you see two offensive linemen trying to go over that bridge from the athletes village over towards the arenas, and they can't quite get up the hill with 680 pounds on the scooter. One of them's got to get off and catch up. It's hilarious.
How about football, Viggs? Kaliakmanis leaving, other players leaving, not in a bowl game, or are they going to do the bowl game?
They're still going to do the bowl game, but they only have two quarterbacks: Cole Kramer from Eden Prairie and Shikanjansky, the son of the former basketball player, is the walk-on quarterback.
That's like our time back in.
Where did the quarterback go? I missed this.
They can't. Oh, we lost him on that.
Died. How perfect was that?
Perfect. Ask the question.
Died on him.
Yep.
You probably didn't hear about Kaliakmanis going to the. That's hilarious, man.
Yeah. So Kaliakmanis, for people catching up, announced his entry in the portal, but he can't officially enter the portal until Monday. So he can't get offers technically from people, and he can't commit anywhere until at least Monday.
It means
the Gophers
the bowl game though too.
Oh yeah, he's definitely not playing in the bowl game. And the backup to him, Drew Votto, also announced that he's going in the portal. So he's a freshman quarterback. He's gone. So they just have two quarterbacks left on the roster. They offered a grad kid from New Hampshire, who's a quarterback, to come. Who knows what's going to happen? But I mean, we talk about this thing. It's just like they're struggling. Do you stick with it or do you go somewhere else? I think I read something that of all the kids who enter the portal from Power 5 schools, only like 30% of them find a home at another Power 5 school. So a lot of them has to go down to like a group of 5 or FCS, or they end up playing D3 or something, or non-scholarship. It's not always going to be better.
Is Minnesota even part of a Power 5 anymore? Really?
Yeah, they are. They fly everywhere in a chartered plane.
True,
but they get absolutely the best food. They get great strength training coaching. They get all the things on the side.
Yeah, but the true Power 5s are really going to be paying these kids
there are 15 schools that can do that, Jude. There are 15 schools who can do that.
Power 15, then. Might as well just call it that, because
Premier League. I mean, that's what people are saying is going to happen. Is you're going to have a Premier League of your Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Alabama.
Yeah, no, I totally get
Clemson,
that, because it's because the schools like Minnesota who want to reward players that stay, obviously for NIL, and I think that's the right thing to do. You're not going to compete with that type of thing.
They weren't before either, though.
I know they weren't.
They weren't either.
It's just going to get more separation.
Maybe. We'll see what happens with this, because it's the wild, wild west on kids getting paid, and we're going to start seeing that in hockey. Michigan State, they got a lot of players because they're splashing some money around. Mm-hmm. BCBU, they're back in it because they're splashing money around. Like, that's a real thing. Is it the best for players to go there as opposed to going to Minnesota and Michigan? I don't know. Is it worth it for some of these guys who are going to be playing the NHL anyway in a couple of years? Is it worth it for the schools to give money to a player that's only going to be there for 1 or 2 years at 18 and 19? These are tough questions. There have not been a lot of blue blood teams that have won with 18 and 19-year-olds at the national level. It happens every once in a while, but not very frequently. So it's not necessarily worth it to really put that money out there. It's just like, I don't know. It's going to change college athletics, and it hurts Minnesota because they lose their depth.
Correct.
Like, if they still had Kai Thomas and Bucky Irving, this team is probably at least like a 9 or 10 win team. Just with those two players back.
It sucks.
Yeah, it does.
It sucks, just you think you're going to get the right coach, you right for things, and then just the bottom falls out. Just like,
I still think PJ Fleck and Mark Coyle know what they're doing. Like, they are going to find their niche, and Minnesota being part of the Big Ten is good for everybody because they're going to get $70 million a year starting next year. And, Scott Bell always used to say, what's the best thing about playing in Minnesota? Chartered flights, catered meals, the best of everything. It's like you get a great experience playing at a school like Minnesota. Not going to get that at Minnesota State, St. Cloud State. It's just not the same.
Can't disagree.
So that's my rant on college athletics right now.
It sucks.
But
it just sucks.
Ethan, personally, I thought he played okay at times, but he's not a complete player. He might be a good spread quarterback, and I think that more than the competition could be the issue. Is that he?
I don't know. I thought the play calling was a little suspect at times as well.
They missed plays. They didn't execute. Like, the plays are there. The receivers dropped the ball. The throw isn't on the money. The protection's not there. It wasn't the play calling. It was the execution. Now, they're not a spread offense, and maybe a spread offense is what Callie McManus would be best in. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe he made the wrong choice then, going to play for PJ Fleck, who just a couple of years ago was only behind Army and Navy in rushing. Different.
Yeah. All right, I got to get to bed. I'm tired.
Okay. Sounds good. Good show. thanks everyone for hanging out with us tonight. Sorry we lost Kinger, but that's what you get with Kinger. You never
He warned us though. He
know.
did warn us.
He did warn us. You never quite know what you're going to get with Kinger, which is part of the fun.
Oh yeah, thanks, Mote. Great show. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate all you people who watch live every week, who watch on Twitter, listen to the podcast.
Thanks for growing our little group here. It's fun.
It is
fun to do. It's fun to hear people, say hi to us on the arenas and the pregame stuff and bring up the Pulltab Sports stuff. It's fun. We got Cappy next week, Chill. Talk about Ohio State. Ohio State has not been a great team this year, so we'll have to hear what Cappy has to say about that.
And he'll also be able to help recap Penn State because he's calling that game. I'm guessing from a Chicago studio. There's no way they're going in. They're bringing him in.
That would be surprising. Yeah, we've been DMing a little bit this week about the state of hockey, so should be fun.
All right. You guys stay out of trouble. See you, gang. Catch you next